Ahoy! Here I am, ladies and gents. How are you doing? Welcome to the BBC Spews Live. Huzzah! It's the 26th of April. God bless America and God save it all. No, we don't like him anymore, do we? Sausage fingers. Tell you what, scratch that last part. God save the wonderful working people of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. And I suppose all of Europe, really, because governments aside, I quite like most of them. Scandies and even the frogs. I think I even like about 18 to 19% of Frenchmen. So there you go. It's a crazy time to be alive. When the Bootneck saying nice thing about the French. How's everyone doing? Hope all's well. Back in Blighty. Still completely tontoing it over there. Everyone's lost the plot. All of the British politicians are completely off the tits. And there's nothing any of us can do about it. Nice one. Love that. Who's in the chat? Danny Ashton's in. Nice one. How you doing, Danny? All right. Who's the other important people? Ams now then. John Hunter. Best Black. Hello. How are you? Sean Bush. Joe's in as usual. Kate, thank you for moderating. John Higginson. And anybody else? Ragnar as well. He's modding. Cheers, mate. Right. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about today. Crikey, I'm getting grey sides now, aren't I? I'm getting on a bit. It's weird the rest of my head hasn't gone grey, but my sides have. A bit like Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four. One thing I do want to bring up, I found an old photo when I was going through. I was looking for a work-related picture, and I found an old photo from like the 90s. I'm very offended, right? I have to share it. That photo there, right? Whoever it was who said that I have pierced ears, that is definitely not a thing. Can I zoom in on this? It won't let me. Yeah, there. That is not a piercing. I think that is a lock of hair jutting out from behind my ear. I have never had piercings, so that is that's something I take great umbrage with. I'm from Middlesbrough. When I told me dad piercing, in fact, no, I didn't tell him. My cousin Lee, he lived in Stockton, and he got his ears. He got one ear pierced. It was like fashionable in the mid-90s, wasn't it? And when he come round our house with his earring in, my dad tortured him, absolutely butchered him. He was like, "Hey, what you doing with an earring in, you puff?" He started butchering him. So I have definitely never had a pierced ear. In our house, my dad was ridiculous. You weren't allowed jewellery, you weren't allowed earrings, you weren't allowed now, you're allowed a watch. And my brother was telling me that he bought a sovereign when they were in fashion, when my dad was when he was about 15. And he said he came home and he had a sovereign ring on. And my brother went, "Look at that, what do you think of me sovereign?" And my dad was like, "Give us a look at it." He said he took it off and handed it him. He went, "Yeah." And then he walked over the waste disposal unit and just went, "Yeah." Just mangled it to shit in the waste disposal unit and went, "We don't wear jewellery in this house, son." Called him a pufter and got on with his day. So definitely, I'm not wearing an earring, all right? Just want to make that clear. Who was it? What a pop. There, look at that. Left ear piercing explains why you're living in Cali. Ha ha. I said I never had a piercing. Must be the meat draw sheet. I was thinking like maybe the corner of a bit of paper or something was sticking out on the notice board behind me. So yeah, never had an ear piercing. Take great umbrage to anybody even suggesting it. Keir Starmer probably had an ear piercing, didn't he? When he was getting bummed senseless in his 20s. Probably had one himself. There was loads of rules, wasn't there? Some bird said it's only gay if it's in one ear. There was loads of rules. There's loads of rules. I don't even know. Apparently, depending on where you put things in your arse pocket, and yeah, I don't know. It's just a lot of that's bollocks, isn't it? It's like urban myths. Like when you're in school, everyone's heard all the same stories. A bloke looked through an hole in a fence, got his head stuck, and then he got bummed by 10 blokes. Like you know, you get your head stuck in a fence, and of the 15 people who walk behind you the next half an hour, 10 of them happen to be homosexual sex offenders. It's yeah, they're all funny, but they're not true. I have heard the rumours, Ragnar. I have heard the rumours. Don't know if it's true. I have to say the leaked video that was supposed to be like a picture of him didn't look like him to me. I thought that was clearly fake. So yeah, I'm not putting too much stock in that one. What else has been going? Here we are. Look at this. So, first story we can talk about. Equality watchdog issues interim guidance on single sex. How expensive would it be? Right. If you're a small business and you don't want to spend any money, you're struggling enough as it is because they keep putting national insurance up and all that type of thing. How do you think they're going to just all put in another bathroom? Says the Equities and Human Rights Commission has released interim guidance on how organisations should interpret the Ukraine. How they should interpret it. Yeah, I'm not rump all of the Bailey, but I'll do my best. Don't let blokes with big floppy cocks go in the bird's toilet. Easy. Easy that, innit? Easy. The thing is, right, I've talked about this a lot. The thing missing from the modern era is quality control. If we had quality control, none of this would be a problem. In the 1980s and the 1990s, it wasn't a problem because anybody who wanted to go into the women's bathroom, and this is a very tolerant liberal stance, I'm sure, compared to some of you lot in the chat who are always calling me a lefty arsehole, right? I don't mind a genuine, like dyed-in-the-wool, proper trans going into a women's toilet. I don't. Because when there was quality control in the 1990s, this never come up. Because on the 1,000,000 to 1 chance one of them went in to a women's toilet, they'd had everything done. Like, they'd had all the work done. And this is what I mean about quality control. You've got, like, you get predatory men who are just blokes taking the slash. But back in the day, you've got, like, they've had everything done. They've got threepenny bits. They've had the snip. They've had the lot. And you can't even barely tell. And they were quiet and timid, and no one would even know. They'd go in, leave. No one had been on the wiser. So it wouldn't be a problem. Get back to the 90s, quality control. If a man told you he was a bird in the 1990s, he'd have had so much work done and be so obviously desperately trying that it didn't matter. Because I'll tell you what, again, some of you are going to disagree, it's fine. I don't mind putting a trans in a woman's prison, right, if he's had the lot done. Because that'd separate the men from the boys, literally. Right? Sorry, the men from the women, literally. These ones who rock up to court with pink lippy on, but tattooed skinheads. I'd just be like, all right, you can go to the women's prison. Cock and balls are coming off right now. Do you still want to go in the women's prison? Think of that. Wouldn't Judge Bootneck make a lot more sense? Right? And that's fair. You'd instantly kill all the arguments about, because you wouldn't be able to call me transphobic because I'd say, no, I support putting trans men into women's prisons. Cock and balls are coming off first, though, boys. Cock and balls. If you want to get it done, right, I'll do it myself in the judge, yeah. I'll swap me judge outfit just for half an hour for a butcher's uniform, right, like a straw hat with a bit of red tape round it and a black and white stripy apron and white stuff. I'd just pull out my garden shears and I'd go, all right, do you want to go to women's prison? Cock and balls are coming off now, right? And then I'm imacking your head and your big hairy nipples and your wiry back, and I'm doing a lot now. And then we'll staple a wig onto your bonds and you can go to the women's prison. Problem solved, right? Nobody could accuse me of being transphobic when I'm saying I'm supporting putting trans men in a women's prison. But the meat and two veg is coming off first, boys. The golf ball and the club are getting slung in the bunker before I put you in the women's prison. So do it. Let's do it. I'm all for. So there you go. There's my official position. If anyone asks, the Angry Bootneck is so liberal, he even supports putting former men in women's prisons, as long as he gets to do the slightly more involved circumcision. Right, what else? So that's bollocks. Anyway, I know I was going to rant about how much it costs, but yeah, they're basically saying that you have to put in another bathroom. It says, where the facilities are available to both men and women, trans people should not be put in a position where there are no facilities for them. So therefore, just add another mixed sex toilets. These facilities should be provided in addition to sufficient single sex facilities. So it's pointless. Pointless. You might as well just live in a fantasy land. We can all do that. We can all do that, can't we? Easy. Easy. I say that all the time. Any person who isn't a pragmatist needs to really think about whether or not they want to get into politics, because we've got no time for this shit. You've got to be a hard-bitten pragmatist in the real world. We can all say, oh yeah, we'll just build 3 toilets or 4 toilets or 7 toilets. It costs money. You've got space. The UK's tiny as it is. You've got these tiny little cafes and bars and restaurants. There's places where there's no extra space. We're just going to keep adding shitters to everything. It's ludicrous. I don't understand this. You need to be a realist when you're in politics. And the people that run the show now just aren't. Yeah, but the thing with that, Geordie, if you're a Raspberry Ripple, well then maybe you don't want to see a bloke's meat and 2 veg while he's wearing a leather miniskirt. So it's unbelievable. Anyway, so I'm not that interested in this story. All I'm saying is it's total bollocks. It's not a solution. It's gibberish. It's wishful thinking. Yeah, oh yeah, you all have to just build more toilets in every building. Yeah. Everywhere, shops and restaurants. Yeah, you can't use the women's, so we'll just build loads more toilets. In fact, let's just make the UK one gigantic toilet. I mean, we're already on the way, aren't we? We're already on the way. The policies of the last 20 years of British governments, we're already nearly there. So, no, we're not doing too bad. They just turned the entire country into one big, manky, open-air shitter. Because that's what they're doing to it anyway, aren't they? And hopefully places like Leicester, when the Puma trackies and the Indians start going at it, we'll hasten the process, won't we? Because they'll just be doing full-on wars in the middle of the streets soon enough, won't they? Love that. What else is going on? Oh yeah, here's a big one. Where's the story I shared? That's worth talking about. I called that because I told you it was going to kick off massively. Oh yeah, you're not looking at the same page as me. Where are we? Here, this. How good's this, right? One thing to teach you when you're doing battlefield medic training, when you're looking after injured people, right, is the sort of necessity to talk to the people, keep them awake, keep them focused on you, keep them interested, keep the morale up, because there's an inexorable link between the will and the desire to live and your body actually pulling you through a rough spot. Okay, that's why in all the movies, that's not bollocks. Like, if you've been critically injured, they always tell you, you got to talk to them. Look at me, don't go to sleep, it's fine. We're going to get you home, it's going to be a good crack when we get home. That's a flesh wound, you'll be fine. You keep them talking because it's linked. You have to want to live, right? There's no way that she was seriously ill with some unknown malady and they were like, oh, she's only got 48 hours to live. And then she managed to pull through with sheer stubbornness, right? The desperate desire to live, right? And then 3 weeks later, she's like, oh, I can't believe I survived the latest attempt. I'm just going to go and lock myself in my farmhouse in the middle of nowhere in the outback in Australia. And then after all that, she's gone, I think I've had enough of living. I'll just top myself. There's no way. You will never convince me. Never convince me these people aren't getting twatted by the sociopath scum that rule the world. There's no way. Because think about it as well. It wouldn't even be hard, any of this stuff. I was telling my missus about it today because we were lying in bed chatting about stuff, it is when you wake up. You usually wake her up with a bizarre story. Like I'll be thinking about something weird for my channel and she like wakes up and opens her eyes and sort of rolls over and just glances at me, and I'm like, Hillary Clinton got Epstein in a headlock. I'm telling you. That's how our mornings go. But we were chatting about it, and I said, like, it wouldn't even be that hard, would it? If you really wanted to kill. If they sent some fit as a fiddle, fit as a butcher's dog, 23-year-old commando around my house, aged 45, I've got no chance, have I? It wouldn't even be hard to kill him. Like, one bloke could do it, Epstein. One bloke could do it, just going inside. He's a 58-year-old bloke or whatever. Just grab him, physically, just on the deck, knee in the back of his head, rope round his neck, asphyxiate you, and then they hang him off the roof or something, don't they? And then they go, killed herself. There's no way. So we all know what happened to Jeffrey. We all know what happened to her. She had the will to live. She had the real fighting of the dogged determination to live. And all of a sudden, I've had enough. I spent all that time fighting it, railing against the darkness, not wanting to go into that, not wanting to go into the long good night. And then when she finally got to her house on her own, she went, done now. Shot herself 8 times in the face with the sawn off. Definitely happened. Makes loads of sense. Like Kurt Cobain. You read about Kurt Cobain when he made that documentary about him. Definitely killed himself by shooting himself twice in the head with a shotgun, and the shell was on the wrong side of the room. And the day after he died, that hag, Courtney, said to the coppers, "Can I have the body, the shotgun, and the lino from the kitchen floor and burn it all, please?" And they went, "Of course you can, love." Imagine some fat redneck, some pretty 28-year-old blonde who marches in and says, "Can I just have all the evidence then?" "Of course you can. Sure you can, pretty lady." And then, shotgun went straight in the fire. Yeah, apparently. Didn't get the news. Shall I find you an actual story? Let's have a look then. I'll look for the story. BBC probably won't cover it, will they? Because they'll be playing oh, here it is. Yeah. Virginia Giuffre's death leaves unanswered questions. No shit. The death of Virginia Giuffre will leave questions that are now likely to remain unanswered. Well, whoop. Knocked me down with a feather. I never saw that coming. Brilliant, that, innit? Her name will always be associated with the scandals and criminality surrounding the late billionaire sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Miss Giuffre was one of the most prominent among his accusers, revealing the trafficking and exploitation of young women. The photo of her and Prince Andrew taken in London in 2001 became emblematic of the royals' entanglement with Epstein and was central to his disastrous Newsnight interview in 2019. The origins of the picture remain uncertain, but her death adds another layer to the mystery of what must inadvertently become one of the most widely viewed photographs in royal history. So, both barrels for Mrs. Giuffre. It's obvious. It's obvious. The fact is, right, suicide at a remote farm after getting over a long illness. Bullshit, Mr. Handman. Bullshit. There's no way. There's no way. Oh, crikey, Joe never heard as well. So nobody's... you got lot don't read the news on a morning, do you? Yeah. Hillary Clinton got her in a headlock. So, that's what happened. Hillary Clinton armbarred her into a noose. And, that's it. This is what I keep telling you lot. You can't get pathological about politics. You can't. These sad bastards, these Trump derangement syndrome, weirdo, woke wackos, right? And again, I don't even love Trump. There's plenty to dislike about Trump if you're being serious. But it's not even that bad. Like, he was in charge for 4 years and now it happened. I was saying to all my TDS mates in California, why are you worrying too much about this stuff? Like, it is what it is. It's politics. Like, and I told the Republicans when Biden was in charge, like, ultimately you get through it. Little things change, but you get on with your life. No matter who's in the White House. Take the dog for a walk, play with your grandkids, do your hobbies, go to the pub, watch the rugby. You know, if you become 100% convinced that your whole life should be about these crusades, you're a sad bastard. There are, and I think people need to calm down. But yeah, definitely got suicided in the face 8 times. Unlucky. I only hope they don't pick on. This is why it's good to be a small tin pot YouTuber with a small audience. 773 people watching this. That's pretty good for a small channel. That'll do me. I feel like if I doubled or tripled those numbers, maybe I'd get a visit from a burly young commando working for the state in a secret capacity, and then they'd force me to put a noose over me napper and throw myself off the garage roof. It's a strange time to be alive. Everyone's at it. Don't bring her up. She does my head in her. The hypocrisy of the legal system. Like, for example, right? Let's do that story. Where's this? Where's the one I was covering recently? It's a bit shit navigating on Twitter, isn't it? Yeah, this one, look. Hypocrisy of the legal system. Again, there's no justice in the world. The only justice you get is the justice you take. There's no justice. The system's broken. It takes care of itself, and we're just pawns in the system. We can't win. And there's no point in like getting over the top about it. Just accept your fate. The stuff they've been said is just rank hatred. Now, I don't advocate putting anybody in prison for saying daft shit. If it was down to me, of course rappers wouldn't be getting nicked for saying stuff like that. But the thing is, when you're locking up hundreds of people just for saying stuff, just for having a bit of crack on Twitter, then if you want consistency and you want people to pay attention and actually have some respect for the law, then these wankers have to go to jail, don't they? Lucy Conley's still in jail. Sam Mellier was in jail for years. The amount of people they nick for nothing, for a bit of banter. And these lads are saying, kill. Like they're actually telling you to murder people, which even before the Twitter stuff was supposed to be the stuff where everyone said was still against the law, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm a freedom of speech absolutist, except for when, telling people, inciting violence, telling people to go and commit an act of murder against their local MP is, strange I have to say it, is calling for violence against individual people. And they get away with it. It's ridiculous. So if it was down to me, no one would be getting nicked for it, fair enough. But if Lucy Conley and Sam Mellier and everybody else is going to prison, these horrible little spiteful bog-brained Murphs should be getting nicked 100%. And again, I'm not having a pop at the Irish here. Like, chippy Catholic Republican Northern Irish are totally different to the Irish, because chippy Northern Irish Catholic Republicans have been indoctrinated since when they could crawl, learning about Bobby Sands and every other sad bastard that came before him. The Irish don't hate the English, but the chippy, staunch Republican, brainwashed since they could crawl, Northern Irish do. And if they're going to spew stuff like that out, well, nick them then. Prove them right. If you're going to, start them chanting about Margaret Thatcher, that's what they did. It was cringe at one of these concerts. If you're going to start them chanting about Margaret Thatcher, even though she's been dead for 20 years, you sad bastards, right? Just nick her. You might as well nick them. You might as well prove them right. And this is, I've talked about Bobby Sands a lot, right? It's sad what happened to Bobby Sands. It is, but it's a failing of his parents and his community. I've talked about it a lot. I said it to a very chippy Northern Irish Catholic when I was in the airport once. We were drinking together because we were only two young lads who wanted to drink in the airport. So me and him got on quite well. When I was a serve in Bootneck, and he said to me, you would be in trouble if you went to my hometown. He said, I've got nothing against individual soldiers, but he said you'd be in trouble. And he started telling me, he told me some Irish jokes. He was telling me how they all came about, because the joke was, if you were thick and Protestant Irish, you'd still get hired. So a load of them thick ass Irish jokes come from them. But he was saying to me, like, he was going on about Bobby Sands and saying how he was a hero and all that. And I said to him, listen, I see where you're coming from, is willingness to do that. It, on some level, is brave. It's extremely brave to kill yourself in such a way. But it's not really brave when you never stood a chance, because you only get conditioned that way by your family. That lad had been told every single day since he could crawl that the British were evil and the occupation was pure spite and venom and hatred, and not a perfectly understandable, pragmatic series of dozens of events starting since even before the plantation of Ulster. Any person who's read history books knows how complex and difficult that situation is. And that's why those people don't pick up AK-47s and try to fill people full of holes. That's a complex situation. But someone like that was trained every day that nothing's more important than liberating the Irish people from the stain of the evil British occupation, to the point where he was willing to starve himself to death. If I was Bobby Sands' dad, he would have emigrated to New York, started shagging a bird, and settled down and had a family. And the most aggressive his Republican activism would have been with, he would have probably supported Celtic, and maybe go to a match every now and then. Because if you get that into it, to repeat myself from earlier, you're a sad bastard, and you need to take a long, hard look at your life. If you're going out marching every weekend, talking about MAGA, Make America Great Again, or F Trump, Orange Man Bad, you're a sad bastard. Do half an hour on YouTube a day or something if you're into politics. But when you start not hanging out with your friends and family, and not pursuing your hobbies, and not walking your dog because you want to be a part of some cause, you're a sad bastard. And I'll retain that for the rest of my life. I think it is. It's not the way to have a good life. So these wankers, to go back to the story, kneecap, the one locking up, either release every single political prisoner in England, or the second they touch down in Northern Ireland, tag 'em, bag 'em, Wormwood Scrubs. Yeah? If it's good enough for Mr. Mellier, it's good enough for poor old Lucy Crosby, or whatever she's called. It's good enough for, Lucy Connolly, innit? If it's good enough for them, it's good enough for these little scroats, these bog-brained Murphs. Love that. So that's my 2 cents on that. Ridiculous state of affairs. That's brilliant, isn't it? Look at this. Homosexual socialist politician Victor Sars visits a kebab shop in Spain to shoot a propaganda video to show that the regulars at Alan's snack bar are nice, tolerant people. But he gets beaten up by the shop owner and his staff, thrown out for being a raver. Of course he does. I don't know if I can watch this. I'll have to do it in still mode, because if you show any chew on YouTube, they instantly ban me and throw me off my account. But anyway, yeah, you'll have to take my word for it. Massive amounts of chew, because he insists that they're very, very tolerant people, and they love blokes who nosh each other off, and they definitely don't. So that's funny. If you want to watch it, I'll put a link in the chat now. Hang on. There you go. So that's good, that, innit? Love it. Right, here's a good one. At the end of the day, if you are labouring under the delusion, I don't know how obvious I can make this. I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted. If you're labouring under the illusion that the regulars at Allen's will ever be pro raving, right? Not discos and loud music and popping pills raving, as in Boy George, Julian Clary, Elton John, Jean-Paul Gaultier. I don't know why I know so many, although they are all 90s era. You know, they used to be quite loud about it in the 90s, didn't they? Because the 90s is when everyone started being super tolerant of the LGBT community, which is hilarious again, because the pretend like 2025 is bad for gay people. And it wasn't bad in the 90s. Because this is what I'm saying, they're all corny. They're all riding on the coattails of the betters. They all want to make out as if they're these like hyper progressive trendsetters, trailblazers. And they're boring. People weren't openly homophobic in the 1990s. Nobody was. In the late 90s, all the 90s gay bars were full. I remember in the early 90s, about 2001. Yeah, just joined up. Got me greenlit, I think. It was 2001. And I was going out with a lass from Manchester. And we were walking through what happened to be the gay district in Manchester. And we were laughing because I stood on some bloke's foot. It was heaving. And I went, "Oh, sorry, mate." And he like looked me up and down in the most like aggressively flaming manner ever. And went, "Anytime." And like, I was like, like, look how flaming that bloke is. And we had a good chuckle about it. There were love and life in the 90s. There was no chew. All the gay nightclubs were heaving in the 1990s. They all used to go out. In Exeter, there was a gay bar that everyone used to say was cheap beer. So Bootnecks would go in for half an hour and have like belt 3 pints at them before they went to where the birds hung out. It was fine in the 1990s. And these wankers are making out like 2025. So 30 years after the fact. They're all trailblazing trendsetters. They aren't. It's like modern feminists. This is the problem. They want to be like, they haven't got a cause. Do you remember the great speech that he gives on Fight Club about them not having a cause? That's true. And it was true then. It was brilliant. I'll have to look that up, actually. You must remember it. I think it's him who's talking about how you're not special. And there's no Great Depression. Yeah, there it is. Look, it's on Reddit. I just typed in Fight Club speech. Remember that? Tyler's speech on Fight Club, he says, "We're the middle children of history, man. No purpose or place. No great war. No Great Depression. Our great war's a spiritual war. Our Great Depression is our lives. We're the middle children of history. No purpose or place. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd be millionaires or movie gods and rock stars, and we won't, and we're slowly learning the fact, and we're very, very pissed off." It's that times 1,000 now. Because people in the 90s at least knew that they weren't part of some great movement. But these kids who've been spoilt are so desperate to pretend they are part of some great crusade. Right? In fact, you know what? I'm just rambling, but AOC said it herself to back up the point I'm making. AOC said, I'm sure you've all seen the footage, climate change is our World War II. Can you remember that? She is cringe sheep teeth, but that's what she said. Climate change is our World War II. They get rid of heterosexual white males when they get thrown off of buildings because there's no one around to stop Allen's fans. Thanks for that, Find Your Way Ban. Yeah, well, they're going to miss us. Like I keep saying, they're going to miss us when we're gone. They're going to miss the English. All the great things we did. Music. All the great music that come out of England. Punched above our weight massively. Massively. Like, for Americans to think they've had as many good bands as the English, they'd have to just pick one state, wouldn't they? The English have just enriched the world. They're going to miss the shit out of us when the UK is just 70% third world shithole dwellers. And they don't do anything fun. That's the worst part about it. I was watching, my missus watches Anthony Bourdain's travel show, and she was watching it the other day, and they were on a beach in Brazil, and there was all these like flamboyant, buxom Brazilian women playing volleyball, and all these Brazilian blokes drinking pints, and they do like this specialist like pork dish down there, and there's a bloke there with a big pig upside down on a hook, skinning it off, making all these shredded pork sandwiches, and they're all getting pissed on Corona, and all the birds are dancing about and that. And I said to my missus, no wonder Alan's lads are miserable. No wonder they're miserable. The women aren't allowed to wear a bikini. No one's allowed to drink, and they can't eat the sandwich. So think of that. That's like, you can put that in, that's a microcosm of why they're pissed off and bitter and miserable. All the stuff that looked good, they couldn't do. Birds can't wear a bikini and have a game of volleyball. Men can't have a drink. No food. Transport that scene to one of their countries, and you've just got women stood on a beach in the sun dressed as ninjas. No wonder they're pissed off. And you've got more than one mother-in-law. All that and 5 mother-in-laws. Kill me. Shoot me in the head. This is why when they take over the world, it's going to be proper shit. Which is what I'm saying, right? So long term, I think it'll be fine. I think all the free peoples of the world will combine and beat them when they're at the gates of Vienna, as usual. But like I keep saying, we could have had a golden age. In 1992, England was that close to becoming like a paradise. It was brilliant. Very well managed migration. It was a trickle. The new one comers got integrated. Everyone was happy. The tunes, the entertainment, the telly, the films. It was fantastic. And now look what they've done to it. 1995 to 2025 is the most depressing 30 years of the last, well, probably the last 80 years. I mean, you get a big kick off every century. So, I mean, obviously it's not going to be as bad as the 1930s or the early 40s, but you know what I'm saying. It's awful. Yeah, it was indeed Tony Blair. It all goes back to him. If you could pick one person that is single-handedly responsible for poisoning the well, it is that rat bastard. I hate him more than anyone. Osama, Ian Huntley, Harold Shipman, old Shippers, my mate Potsy, Mick Philpott, if you don't know. I hate him more than any of them. If I could if you could get rid of the 10 worst killers in British history, or you could erase Tony Blair from the face of the fucking earth before he took power in the United Kingdom, I'd go with that. I hate him. Butch is in. All right, mate. Nice to see you again. I haven't seen you for a while. Not since 40 Commando. I hope you're still getting on all right. And I've got nearly 1,000 in there. 986. Getting back up there. YouTube have definitely had me back on the list, haven't they? All my numbers created the last couple of months. They do like the lists, don't they? The authoritarian scum. They always have done. Lists ever since the Stasi and long before. Find your way ban. My wife thinks I'm a knuckle-dragging conspiracy theorist who hates other cultures. The second they ban wine, she will be ramping me up like a boxer's trainer, heading into the last round. Well, you see, that's what I'm telling you. The people of England we were too well led for too long. So we take way longer to get wound up than anybody else. But when it gets really bad, it will kick off. And that's why I've been advocating for having a humorous approach, not becoming like a political ideologue and enjoying your life, and trying to have a political solution, because it always ends in a dust-up, because our leaders don't like doing prevention. They just like cures. So they're not going to do prevention. As usual, it's going to be the cure. They're not going to slow immigration down. They're not going to enforce the law on the scumbags. They're not going to do anything about the grooming gangs. They're not going to do anything about the dinghy divers. They're not going to stop them putting them up in hotels. It's going to get worse every year until they get to a big enough number where all them independents can band together, and then they're going to end up with the regular Allen's snack bar party in Parliament, and then they'll probably end up being able to seize power with only about 25% of the population because they all vote for the same people and they make the wives and kids vote for who they tell them to, and we don't. So they'll probably be able to seize power when they're only about 25%, but then they'll get twatted. So it'll all come out in the end. Long term, short to medium term, black pill. Long term, white pill. It'll be fine. But the morons don't want to do prevention. So you're going to have to wait for cure. It's going to be bad when it kicks off. But as usual, we'll win. The Europeans always win. It's going to kick off all across Europe. They're going to launch some sort of global holy war, aren't they? It's going to be like the Bataclan and Charlie Hebdo and Nice and London Bridge and Borough Market. It's going to be like that times sort of 10. And there's going to be a lot of death. And there's going to be a lot of orphans. And there's going to be a lot of misery. But then it'll get sorted out eventually. And we could have stopped it all happening. But nobody listens. And the politicians and the political class don't listen. So it'll kick off. But in the end game, we'll win. We always win. How are we going to lose? Have you ever had a fight with a Puma trackie? Have you ever had a scrap? My mate John Witt had a fight with about 25 of them, and it was a draw. I'm telling you. It was like watching an angry bear fight with, like, jackals or something. He was just slinging them around willy-nilly. I've had fights with little gangs of them, 4 or 5. Never get the drop on you. The sparrow boned. My dad said it's because, generations of rice and piss is all they eat. Never really understood that. Like, I don't think you can live off rice and piss. But and also all the cousin rattling. You know what I mean? It gives the sparrow boned. When it kicks off, they'll lose. So I'm just saying, if people listen to me and had a sense of humour and did the basics, like heavily vetted anyone who wants to move to England and aggressively deported anybody who broke the law. I mean, wow, these are controversial things. You know the shit we just always did in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s? Yeah, mega controversial. If we'd have just done that, everything will be fine. But they won't, so it'll kick off. Easy. But we'll win, so it doesn't matter, does it really? You just have to keep laughing and get on with it. Yeah, of course it will. Every one of them's been dug up a relative. It's the way they are. Google Mike is having nothing to do with 50 first anniversaries. What's Google Mike? Is that some app I don't know about, or am I just being a boomer and you mean something else? I can't see it. Yeah, exactly. I'm a good puncher, me. Stick and move. Jab, jab, jab. Accurate punching. Who am I going to be fighting? 10 sparrow-boned cousin bombers with boss eyes. Never going to lose. Never going to lose. Easy. I could fight 30. If you lined up the 30 strongest kebab shop owners in Middlesbrough, I guarantee, and put me in a cage with all of them, I guarantee I'd walk away. I wouldn't need a weapon. So like I joked about, I'd just drop me drawers, give my scrotum a twist, and use my ball bag as a fleshy mace. Just beat them to death with my sack in front of everyone. Put it on national television. Yeah, exactly. Boss eyes and a limp. No chance. Club foot, hair lip, fingers coming out the top of the shoulders. The works. Never going to lose. It'd be like Arnie fighting, what's his name? Danny DeVito. So easy. I'm not worried. Chips. The ship's grandbag sent me £2 but didn't ask me anything. Thanks for that anyway. Cheers. And Jack London's been on. All right. Nice to see you, pal. Cheers. When we do, are we on next week? Are we doing a stream next week? Remind me on WhatsApp or something. I don't remember. I lose track these days. Anyway, should we do this poll? Because I wanted to share this. After the Spanish maniac, this guy, after this Spanish socialist sociopath, Victor Sayers displayed the common sense of a chicken McNugget and the situational awareness of a goldfish in a hijab, right? And went to a very, very devout regular at Alan's house to try and prove how tolerant they are, and promptly got a good shoeing because, funny old thing, Abu Hamza doesn't think humming the national anthem with your lover's balls in your mouth is a good idea, right? Weird that he didn't already know this. I take you back to this poll that I've shown more than once. Hard facts from The Guardian. You can't say it's not a good fact when it's from The Guardian, right? Because it's not just the right wing lying, it's The Guardian. It's a left wing source, okay? This is hard fact from 2009. They did a famously big poll back in 2009. And then when they realised what the results of these polls were, they stopped doing polls. Weird, funny thing that. Stopped doing polls. Oh, look, Joe, she gifted a Bootneck membership. Quick, someone unimportant, grab it. Do it. Thanks, Joe. So, yeah. Funny old thing to stop doing polls after this. When they realised that the most rabidly homophobic people in the UK weren't ginger or people like me from Middlesbrough, funny old thing, they stopped doing polls. Okay? But this is the hard numbers. They were daft enough to release it, and the Angry Bootneck saved it for posterity. Okay? Thanks for reminding me, Ragnar, covering the Iron video. I'll cover that briefly. But I reached out to them. Now that I've got like 70,000 subs, I've almost got enough traction where people want to come on and talk to me. And yeah, the brother said he's going to put me in touch with him. And I'm going to have him on my stream and talk to him personally. Because obviously he's a bootneck, trying to get some traction on the story. Quiet man, £2. Cheers, mate. Yeah, anyway, I'll quickly cover this and then we'll talk about it because I want to be off in 10 minutes. So they have zero tolerance. Zero. It was from a study of, so they talked to 500 of them. It says the most dramatic contrast found that, in fact, I'll blow it up so everyone can see it if you're on your phone. This is from The Guardian, so it's not some right-wing source. The most dramatic contrast was found in attitudes towards homosexuality. None of the 500 British Allen's lads interviewed believed that homosexual acts were morally acceptable. 1,001 non-regulars were interviewed. By comparison, and have you seen that? They think that's tolerant. By comparison, 35% of French regulars thought it was acceptable. So that's a good statistic, that. If you bump into 100 regulars at Alan's legendary snack bar, right, in France, only 65 of them will want to beat you to death. And apparently, that means they're tolerant. 65 out of 100 want to send you on a one-way trip off the 30th floor to a concrete town, okay? And in the UK, all of them, 500 of them talked to, zero said they thought it was acceptable. And yeah, that explains why so many of them are car park attendants. Yeah, they love it. They love it. So that's a fact. You can have that for nout. I'll put that story in there. You can share it around. That'll be good. That'll put the cat amongst the pigeons. Have a look at that one. Bosh. From The Guardian, 2009. 100% of 500 interviewed want to murder Owen Jones. Do with that what you will. Do with that what you will. Jeff Hinchcliffe's joined the party. Cheers, Jeff. Now you matter. Now you matter. And most importantly, the more members you get, the more Neil will climb off my balls. So if you can afford $2.99 a month, I encourage you to join in the show. Actually, it reminds me, I guess I have to do another giveaway, don't I? We'll do that next week. I'll put everyone's names in the hat and I'll give some shit art away next week, if you remember. All right? You can't say fairer than that. Right, we'll quickly cover this Bootneck story. Where was that one? Crikey, I must have been tweeting more than I thought. I can't find it now. I'll just click on Plastic Scott's page. Where is he? Right, I'll just play this and you can listen to it yourselves. All right, and then I'll drink my tea in peace. Okay, if you haven't heard, shenanigans in the military, taking the slash, as they did when I was in. I left in extremely angry and bitter and twisted. Took me many years to get over it because of the behaviour of the top brass, stitching up the men, stitching up my colleagues, essentially getting Dave Marsh and John Thornton killed when I was deployed with them in Kajaki. It's also when Ben McBean lost his arm and leg. That all happened when I was out there. I'd testify to it in court. The brass killed friends of mine, and they've always been against us, and it's still happening now. And you can have a quick listen. I'll let him sum up here.
Video, and if you agree with it, then share it with other YouTubers and media reporters alike. I've been a YouTuber for 5 years, and in that time, I've never once gone into politics because as a YouTuber, it's not really my responsibility, or I don't feel like it's my responsibility to teach you what you should believe and what political opinions you should have. However, the British government is currently trying to slander, discredit, and defame my little brother, who is a Royal Marine Commando, simply for opposing something that he felt personally would result in the death of Marines. Now, by making this video and by standing with my little brother, the British government will most likely come for me next. They may have this video removed, they might have both my channels demonetized, and they'll probably try and dig up some dirt to discredit me. I want them to know that there is nothing I won't sacrifice for my family. So, with that being said, what's actually happened? My little brother expressed some concerns over dangerous DEI policies within a Corps of Royal Marines, and he made a petition to express those concerns. 1,000 Royal Marine Commandos signed that petition within 24 hours, and then the petition was taken down and the chain of command circulated messages saying that it was Russian disinformation. It wasn't Russian disinformation, it was my little brother and 1,000 Royal Marine Commandos. So what did the Ministry of Defence decide to do? Well, instead of addressing the problem that all of these Royal Marines Commandos had signed up for, instead what they did is they started a witch hunt to try and locate the individual that started this petition so that they could make their life hell. One of the ways they did that was Marines were literally taken into bright lit rooms and interrogated to try and give up one of their brothers. And yet guess what? Nobody gave him up, because the Bootnecks have got principles, something the chain of command could take a lesson from. Now, after weeks of intimidation and threats, my little brother began to feel bad for his friends, for the guys around him who were all being threatened and intimidated by the Ministry of Defence. And so he went to his chain of command, put his hand up and said, "It was me that started the petition." And so what did they do? Well, they flew him down to the main mod Ministry of Defence building in London on the other side of the country and interrogated him, where they threatened him, his career, and his family. Well, guess what? I'm his family, and I'm going to shine a light on your total abuse of power, you shameful, pitiful, weak cowards. Now, after his first interrogation was over, he then went on holiday with his wife to decompress, but...
Right, so that's the short version. I'll add my 2 cents, and with any luck, I'll get him on the channel and we'll have a chat with him next weekend. But essentially, this has been going on since I was in. Right, I joined up in 99. Oh, Plastic Scott's in. Nice to see him. All right, mate. Yeah, so I showed him the first 2.5 minutes of that. Sums up briefly what the problem is. This has been going on since time immemorial. The state, the powers that be, look after themselves. They close ranks and they'll use any punitive measures they deem necessary to keep their iron grip on the situation. But to add my 2 cents, I joined up in 1999, so I'm from a slightly earlier generation. But this was happening when I was in, and the main reason I put my chit in and left was because of this type of behaviour. Dave Marsh and John Thornton. In fact, I'll look them up because it'll add some clarity to what I'm talking about. It'll be on one page because they die together. There we are. So that was when I was in Afghanistan. John Thornton and Dave Marsh got killed because the British government was more concerned with the feelings of the Afghans, right, than our men. And the major in charge of our company at the time, a guy called Duncan Manning, I was in the ops room when he was saying, this is a ludicrous policy. We stopped being able to shoot Taliban fighters when they were digging mines and improvised explosive devices in Helmand province, which was probably the most dangerous part of Afghanistan, right? And he physically was whinging about it in front of me. And I said to him, has someone got to get killed before they change this policy? And he said, and I'm quoting him, probably. We all know they're not digging for carrots. That's what I remember him saying to me. We all know they're not digging for carrots. They were in the waddies at 3 o'clock in the morning in a deserted area because there was so much fighting going on, and they were digging mines and IEDs in. And about 7 weeks after that conversation, when mine and IED strikes had risen by a factor of 10,000%, Dave Marsh and Chippy Thornton both lost their lives. JT's, well, I think it's his mother's sisters got in touch with me as well when I talked about him before, because I knew him quite well, and I never forgot him. And this enrages me because it's always happened. These people, the scum that lord it over us, the first Sea Lord, that degenerate politician in a uniform, isn't fit. Like I tell you, don't let these people talk down to you. The first Sea Lord isn't fit to suck my left testicle. The man is a dog, because when you get past the rank of about major, you turn into a politician. And is there any creature lower than a politician? There's nothing worse. I'd rather be Gary Glitter's cellmate than a politician. They are worms. Absolute rats. And you know what was funny? I left in disgust after that tour. And it was a prophetic decision. So if I left in 2000, it'll have been 2009 if that tour was 2008. I went outside in 2009, and a couple of years later was when Al Blackman got done and charged for murder in the first degree and sentenced to life in prison when every man and his dog knew for a fact that it was manslaughter at worst, and he should have got a slap on the wrist and about 3 years in jail for it at worst. Okay, so this has always happened. This has always happened. These scumbags are doing to his brother the exact same thing they've always done, which is crushing the lads, the fighting bread and butter of the military, for using the common sense that the working classes have when they're not playing these political games. And they're entitled to their opinion because their opinion's right and the general public know it's right. DEI, as it did in Helmand province in 2008, namby-pamby, wishy-washy, worry about the feels before the reals, bollocks, will and has get people killed and got people killed. And it is going to happen. The DEI bollocks in the Royal Marines is ludicrous. And Butch is a bootneck. Are you telling me that any bird is going to be able to haul herself up that 30-foot rope? It's total nonsense. Pip and all them cheated. Everybody knows it. It's not happening. Even if a rare woman could manage it, dropping the standards will have you in a situation where some bloke's got 3 holes in him. Again, happened to me when I was in Helmand province. We had 3 lads got shot on one patrol, and then we had to throw them on top of ponchos and sprint across open ground whilst being rinsed by the Taliban to get them to the chopper, to get them to Bastion for medical treatment, emergency medical treatment. And if you've got a couple of split arses in there, a little 5'2" fat fucker, because the DEI government said it was a good idea, she's going to drop the tarp and the bloke's going to have multiple gunshot wounds and a bad fucking head because some little fat bulldyke dropped him on it. Okay? That's what DEI is going to do to the military. And you can get away with it in rear echelon roles like being a signals technician or a radar operator or a clerk or a storeman or a driver. So I'm not saying women shouldn't be in the military, but at the tip of the spear, commandos, special forces, paratroopers, no. If you must have them, let them achieve the identical standard of the men. And that'll sort it out. Because maybe 1 in a million can manage it. And then they'll be strong enough to hold their own. But if they even think about changing the standards, they will kill people. We both know it's going to happen. Okay? That's all I've got to say on it. With any luck, I'll get Plastic Scott on, his brother on next week, and we can have it out in front of everyone. Okay? I think we'll call it there. 1,103 people in there. That's not a bad number for a tin pot bootneck channel, is it? Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all the super chats, as usual. Thanks for spreading all my videos around of late. And thanks for joining the channel as a member, because there's no better way to keep Neil off my balls. Okay? Thanks, everyone. I'll see you all on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a drink. Enjoy yourselves. Remember, don't be a sad bastard. Don't go on a protest. Enjoy yourselves, okay? Might as well at least have a chuckle while the world burns. See you all soon. Thanks for tuning in. Toodle pip. Cheers.